When a young child suddenly loses their parents, it's basically seen as a death. It's the absolute worst trauma that a child could have. Okay, this is something that is known. This is something that has been talked about. So nobody should be taking this by surprise.
Que ya estaba aquí, ya. ¿Tiene que regresar para hacer algún trámite?
No, ya no.
Now, even with small periods of absence, you can have potentially permanent changes, but longer periods of absence, longer periods of trauma, longer periods of neglect are going to most likely have permanent signs and symptomatology for these kids. These kids potentially are going to be damaged for the rest of their lives.
Extraño mucho a mi mamá.
Some kids get angry, some kids start to scream and cry, some become despondent and hopeless, some again struggle with sleep, some stop eating or eat much less. Their ability to interact with other people becomes worse. It becomes much more troubling for them in a variety of contexts.
Aló.
The longer you delay in regards to getting appropriate mental health interventions for these kids, the more the struggle is going to be. And that seems to have been one of the difficulties right now. Now, obviously, the best intervention that could have been done is never to have allowed this to happen. With many of these kids, they might develop a fear of leaving their parents, school refusals, anxiety disorders, more long-standing post-traumatic symptoms, a fear of interacting with strangers, but most notably, a fear of impending doom of what's going to happen to their parents next. We all know that these kids have come from struggling environments, some more traumatic than others, but likely all of them traumatic and difficult. They get here, they're hungry, many were sick, some have died. These kids are at huge risk. They do not have the defensive structure that an average child would have. So the impact on removing their parents and then God knows what happening to them is going to be far more significant than, say, an average child. Children that are depressed, children that are significantly anxious, instead of saying, gee, I'm depressed or I'm anxious, might complain of variable complaints of stomach pain, of headaches, of struggles sleeping, of not having an appetite, of feeling nauseous. It's extremely important that there be an intensive assessment of these kids sooner rather than later. There needs to be a lot more put forth in regards to trying to help these kids to get them reunited with their families, to get them the treatment that they need. And most importantly, they need to get back to a normalized life. The impression that I've gotten with many of these kids is that this has not happened yet.